I will identify and draw right, obtuse, and acute angles. This sheet's pretty easy. It's basically just matching. So go ahead and see if you can't match all of the angles and then come back and check. So for this time, I want you to try to do this all by yourself. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and then we're going to come back and discuss it. Okay, so let's go ahead and check and see how you did. So you can just take a look at mine and you can see how I matched it up. And you can see which angles were acute, which angles were right, which angles were obtuse. Now you notice that the directions say to write less than, greater than, or equal to in each angle to the correct label. But I did not write that in there, and it's okay if you didn't either, but I do want you to match each of these up. So if you need to pause the video and go ahead and take a look, go ahead and do that. But just remember, if your right angle template fits exactly inside the shape, then it's a right angle. So if you got one wrong, take your right angle template and go back to that shape and see if you can figure out why it's actually acute or why it's actually obtuse or why it's actually right. All right, now let's take a look at the second page. Now you'll notice that the directions say that we are to take a look at Pablo Picasso's painting here, and we're going to identify at least 2 acute, 2 obtuse, and 2 right angles, and then we're going to label them with points and name them in the table below the painting. So the first thing I'm going to look for are some acute angles. It's kind of hard sometimes to do this in a real life object, but I think that we can handle it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make a line, and I'm going to make the color of the line, I think, green. I think that'll make it a little bit easier. And I'm going to go ahead and use the ray setting, and I'm looking for angles that are less than a right angle. So you can take your right angle template and fit it into these shapes. There are lots and lots of angles. I'm just going to kind of look for a couple. So if you see right here, if I use this as my vertex, and I begin here, and then this is my other ray, this angle would be an acute angle. So I'm looking for another one. Here's another one. So this angle, here's one ray, and then here's my vertex. I'm going to make the other ray follow this line segment. These two will be my acute angles. Now I have to label them with points. I'm going to go ahead and grab my pen, and I'm going to write in some points. So an angle, remember, has 3 points. So I'm going to put 3 vertexes, or a vertex, excuse me, and 3 points. So I'm going to call this angle A, B, C, and I'm going to put 3 points on this angle, and I'm going to call this one D, E, F. And I'm going to go ahead and label them down here. So I've got angle, there's my angle symbol, A, B, C. Now remember, it could also be angle CBA. And I've got angle D, E, and F. All right, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to look for some angles that are obtuse angles. So I'm going to go back to my line setting, and I'm going to put some rays in here. I'm going to use a different color for these. Maybe I'll do pink. All right, so I'm looking for angles that are greater than a right angle. So I'm looking at this angle. So if this were the vertex started here, and, whoop, something happened. Okay, so try that again. All right, so if this was my vertex here, and it came down this way, and came out this way, you can see that this angle is greater than a right angle. And this other side of this building is also obtuse, greater than a right angle. I could test this with my right angle template, but I can tell just by looking that it's greater than a right angle. So I've got to put some points on these just like I did the other one. So I'm going to put a point here, here, and here, and then points here, here, and here. So I'm going to call this one G, H, I. I'm being real creative with my labels, aren't I? And J, K, and L. So my obtuse angle, now notice the angle symbol is the same, regardless of whether it's an acute angle, an obtuse angle, or a right angle. Still, they all look like acute angles. So I'm going to go ahead and do IHG. Remember, that could also be labeled GHI, and angle JKL. All right, so now I'm looking for some angles that are right angles. So I'm going to go back up here to my line creator, and I'm going to use a different color here. I'm going to make these rays. I think I'll go ahead and make these blue, and I'm looking for exact right angles. So this is a rectangle, so I know it has to have 4 right angles. So I'm going to go ahead and put one line here, or a ray, excuse me. There's a ray, and here's another ray. That makes a right angle. And then, oh, right here. And then this corner of the building makes another right angle. Okay, so now I just have to go back and put some points on these just like I did the others. So I'm going to put a point here, here, and here. So a point here and at the vertex and here. So our last letter I ended with was L, so I'll call this M, N, O, and then P, Q, and R. So I've got angle M, N, O, and angle P, Q, and R. So we identified acute angles, obtuse angles, and right angles. So now the last part of our learning target here is we're going to construct. Construct is just another word for right, and it says we're going to use a straight edge or our right angle template. Since you have your right angle template, you might as well go ahead and use it. And we're going to use the words greater than, less than, or equal to in our explanations. So we have to explain the characteristics, and we also have to draw one. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to take your pencil, and I want you to put the vertex on your paper. Okay, so put your vertex. Then you're going to use your right angle template to trace this base of your angle or this ray. I have a tool here where I can make a perfectly straight line. You don't. I want you to take your right angle template and I want you to trace it to make sure that this line is perfectly straight. Now, if it's going to be an acute angle, that means that this next ray has to be less than a right angle. So you can make it a very acute angle. You can make it a kind of acute angle. You can even make it almost a right angle, but it has to be less than a right angle. So now we've created it. Now we're going to use the words greater than, less than, or equal to as we are explaining the characteristics of an acute angle. So I'm going to type this because I can always type a little bit faster. That's a little bit big. Let's make this font a little bit smaller. Okay, so an acute angle is an angle that is less than a right angle. Okay? All right, now let's try a right angle. Why don't you use your right angle template? This will be easy because you can pretty much just trace your right angle template and you can make a perfect right angle. So again, you're going to start with your vertex, and then you're going to start with the bottom part of your angle and then trace your right angle template to make sure that it is a perfect right angle. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put our little template inside here to show that it is a right angle, and then we have to give the characteristics of a right angle. So we're going to say that, let's see if I can go ahead and type this. A right angle creates a perfect corner where the two rays meet. I don't know what else to say. I guess I could say it's exactly a right angle. That really doesn't seem like a very good explanation. Okay, so now let's try an obtuse angle. So I want you to, again, use your right angle template. Start with your vertex and start with your straight line on the bottom. This time we're going to be creating a ray that opens up greater than a right angle. So we can go ahead and put our arc in there. I didn't put the arc in our acute angle that I should have to show which way it opened. But I'm going to go ahead and draw it in this one to show that it opens this way. Oops, I want this pin. Okay, so here's my arc. Maybe, maybe not. Having pin issues. Pin. Okay, so here's our arc. And now we have to create an explanation of the characteristics of an obtuse angle. So I'm going to say an obtuse angle is greater than a right angle. So remember, today's lesson was all about obtuse, acute, and right angles. If you forget which one is which, you can always come back and look at your journal.